this video is about using dates in a filter in SQL Server. Okay, now we all know that we have a format or a type called date time. So a date time type basically stores a date and a time. So I've got 2017, 11, 15, 16, 23.567. Okay, so what that gives me my year, century, year, month, day. Okay, and if you're in America or somewhere else, it gives it slightly differently. Then it's your hour, your minute, your seconds, and your milliseconds behind it. Okay, so that is basically how that all fits together. So the way SQL stores this is not actually as a date like that. It stores it as a physical number, a decimal number at that. So it will store it something like that. So it is a number and it is a fraction. Now this number is the number of physical days from the 1st of January 1900. Okay, so the number 0, okay, that number is basically the 1st of January 1900 midnight. Okay, that is what 0.0 is in date terms. If it wants to go before that, it puts it as a minus number. If it goes after that, it's a plus number. We're around 45, 49,000 days after that day at the moment. So that is roughly where we're at. Okay, so that is how it stores days. So if I take any date time value and I plus 1, it is literally the next day. Doesn't matter if it's the next day in the month, next day in a leap year, next day in a year, doesn't matter. It goes and it knows how to add a single day to that. So that takes into account leap years, changes in months, number of days, doesn't matter. It actually knows how to add the next one onto it. So adding plus or minus 1 to this day will add or subtract a day to my date. So any day you can plus 1 or minus 1 or plus 100 or whatever, it will actually add those days for you. Okay, time on the other hand is stored as a fraction of a 24-hour day. So what that means is, if I put 0.0, that is midnight, 0.5 is the middle of the day, because it's halfway through my 24-hour cycle. So that is 12 o'clock in my day. So that is 12 p.m. So if I put 0.75, that would be 6 p.m. If I put 0.25, that will be 6 a.m. So the fraction in my day, fraction in my number, works out to the exact time in that day. So when you work it out as a fraction, it gets up to a couple of 100 milliseconds that it changes. So if I change one fraction, it changes about 20 or 30 milliseconds on it. So you can actually get your date quite accurate. If you need a date that is more accurate like that, in milliseconds, that is what they will use for if you really need to know the millisecond that something happened, then you can use a date time too, which will give you a much more accurate number. So effectively what it is, it stores more decimals behind the value to make sure it's more accurate. But that's the way dates work. Now, when I want to put this in a filter, I need to realize that the date and the time goes together. So if I want to show everything from, so my from date is basically 2017-11-01, and my to date is 2017-11-30, we need to now realize that everything, if I give it that date, I'm effectively giving it midnight on that day. So if I just say everything bigger and equals to from date and everything smaller than equals to to date, I'm not going to get a value 10 o'clock that morning. That value of 10 o'clock that morning is after midnight. So even though it's still on the 30th, it will assume that it doesn't need to show it because it is after midnight when the start of the 30th, at the start of the 30th. So to get past that, whenever we do a filter with a date in it, we always add it with add an extra day to our to date. So I will have from date greater than equals to my from date, which is fine because on the first midnight, so that'll include from midnight onwards on my first day. But I also then want to say less than my to date plus 1. So I want everything, in this case, I want everything actually before midnight on the 1st of December. I don't want to stop there. I want to show everything including the 30th. So that means everything before the 1st of December. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm saying my date is then less than, not less than and equals to, otherwise it will include midnight dates. So less than the due date plus 1, which will then include all the days for my 30th as well. So usually when we have a filter with a date range in it, this is the way we will handle it. So greater than equals to my from date and less than my to date plus 1. And that's how you filter on dates.